What if time is an illusion? Time. We live within its grasp, measure it in seconds and seasons, fear its passing, and seek, sometimes desperately, to control it. But what if time, as we commonly understand it, isn't real at all? What if time, with all its familiar rhythms and absolute certainty, is a conjured illusion, a convenient fiction spun by our senses and our civilization? To explore the possibility that time is not fundamental, but rather emergent, or even illusory, is to challenge the very foundation of how we understand ourselves, our universe, and the hum of existence itself. Let's set aside our clocks, dating apps, and calendar reminders, and embark on a journey through philosophy, physics, and consciousness to unravel the profound ramifications of a world where time is just an illusion. Begin by considering how you experience time. You recall yesterday, you anticipate tomorrow, yet your experience happens in the now, a fleeting moment always slipping out of reach, becoming part of the past just as it arrives. We structure our lives around this stream, but if you examine your own experience, you find only a series of moments shimmering atop an endless present. Thinkers have debated the nature of time for centuries. In the East, philosophers from ancient India describe time as Maya, illusion. Western thinkers, from Plato and Aristotle to Augustine, have asked whether time exists outside the mind or is simply a measure of change. St. Augustine himself famously remarked, "What then is time? If no one asks me, I know what it is. If I wish to explain it to him who asks me, I do not know." Even today, our greatest scientists and thinkers are divided. Is time an intrinsic fabric of reality or merely a construct of consciousness? Einstein's theory of relativity famously shattered the comforting universality of a ticking universal present. His equations showed that time and space are inextricably woven, and that time flows differently depending on your velocity and proximity to massive objects. A clock orbiting Earth ticks slower than a clock at sea level, and near the edge of a black hole, time nearly grinds to a halt. Einstein's block universe, a mathematical model, suggests that past, present, and future may coexist as a frozen, four-dimensional space-time block, within which our sense of motion through time is nothing more than a feeling. But the challenge runs deeper still. In quantum physics, the underpinning science of the small, time at times seems to drop out entirely. The deepest equations of physics, like those governing quantum gravity, sometimes treat time as a parameter with no physical process attached, giving rise to what some physicists call timelessness. If the universe at its most fundamental level doesn't require time, then why do we sense its passage? Where does the illusion come from? The philosopher Immanuel Kant argued that time and space are not external realities, but forms of intuition, lenses through which our minds structure experience. For Kant, the human mind creates the framework of time. Time may not exist out there, independent of conscious observers. Following this line, neuroscientists today study how our brains assemble memories and sense of self, constructing the illusion of a flowing stream of time from the dance of neurons. Consider your morning. You wake, recall last night's dreams, plan for the day, and think about events to come. Yet, measured by the firing of neurons and the processing of sensory information, now is all that truly exists. Your sense of the past is a network of stored memory traces stitched together into a coherent story. Your sense of the future is a projection based on known patterns, desires, and fears. In every strictly physical sense, only the present, the firing of neurons in this instant, holds any reality at all. The British physicist Julian Barbour goes a step further. He posits that the universe is composed not of moments strung together, but of a vast collection of no's, an infinite set of possible arrangements, or time capsules. In his book, The End of Time, Barbour argues that our minds link some no's to others using memories and records, fooling us into believing in a flowing time. The universe, in this view, is static and eternal. It is our consciousness reaching out to connect these islands that creates the feeling of flow. Elsewhere, famed theoretical physicist Carlo Rovelli, one of the creators of loop quantum gravity, argues that time and space are not primary ingredients of reality at all. Instead, time emerges from the relationships between quantum events. At the deepest level, reality is a network of interactions and change that our brains encode into narrative arcs, constructing the syntax of past to present to future. Suppose, then, that time is not real in the way we think it is. What follows? First, our lives, the stories we tell ourselves, suddenly appear transformed. Much of our anxiety and aspiration roots itself in the relentless forward march of time, the pressure to accomplish, the fear of missing out, the shadow of mortality haunting our every decision. If time is not fundamental, then the specter of beginnings and endings, of irrevocable loss, might also be illusion. Our very identity, tied to a linear sequence of events, becomes fluid. The me of yesterday and the me of tomorrow stand as neighbors on a cosmic shelf, their differences mere arrangements of matter and energy, linked only by our chosen perspective. Second, free will and causality, the notion that actions unfold in an arrow of time, become slippery concepts. In a block universe, where past and future coexist, the distinction between what has happened and what will happen dissolves. Does this mean our choices are predetermined? Not necessarily. Rather, it invites us to reconsider the nature of choice itself and to see our actions not as causal dominoes, but as facets of a greater whole. Third, the illusion of time invites deep humility about what we truly know. Our senses, so often trusted, are revealed as storytellers, not just reporters. In the grand tradition of Copernicus, who displaced Earth from the center of the cosmos, and Darwin, who thrust us into the weave of evolution, the realization that time is illusory returns us to a place of wonder, uncertainty, and possibility. How, then, does one live in a world where time is an illusion? For some, this idea brings liberation. The chains of the future and the grief of the past soften. Only the present matters, glowing with a vividness undimmed by worry or regret. We are encouraged to savor each moment, to dive deeply into the now, knowing that each configuration of reality is as real as any other, and that the sense of flow is a gift, not a master. Religions and spiritual traditions have long sensed this. Zen Buddhism teaches mindfulness, awareness without clinging to past or future. The Sufi mystics speak of annihilation in the present, a letting go of self and time. Even in the Christian tradition, the idea of eternity exists parallel to chronological time, inviting followers to taste, here and now, something timeless. The illusion of time also invites us to reimagine our relationship with the universe. If all moments are equally real, then memory and prophecy are twins. The universe holds, in its quiet, the fullness of every possible experience. Our connection to loved ones lost, the potential for transcendence, and the meaning of existence itself are recast as threads in a timeless fabric, not as sparks flickering and blinking out. Science, too, pivots. If time is emergent, physicists must find what truly holds the cosmos together, perhaps information or relationships, rather than space and time. Quantum experiments, such as delayed choice and retrocausality experiments, hint that cause and effect may not function as intuitively as we think. The future may subtly influence the present, and the clear demarcation between before and after grows blurry. Imagine for a moment a society that embraces the illusion of time, not as escapism, but as a new paradigm. Education shifts. Rather than viewing knowledge as needing to race against the clock, learning becomes contemplated for its own sake. Creativity flourishes, tethered less to deadlines and more to process. Conflict might ease, as historical grievances and anxieties over the future yield to the reality of shared presence. Does this mean time's passage is mere fantasy? Surely, our entire civilization pulses to the beat of time. Calendars, schedules, legal systems, and even our spoken language are bound to it. Yet, every linguistic structure is, in the end, an abstraction, a symbol meant to aid in living, not to supplant the underlying truth. What about death? Perhaps the most poignant and disturbing aspect of time's apparent march. If time is an illusion, does death lose its sting? Our biological bodies indeed decay, and the story of our lives appears to have a beginning and an end. Yet, if every moment is equally real in the block universe, then the experiences and connections that make up a life are never truly gone. They are eternally present somewhere in that timeless mosaic. Such a vision can be both comforting and unsettling. We yearn for permanence, but also for adventure, for novelty, for becoming. The illusion of time, keenly felt, is what gives drama, meaning, and urgency to our fleeting years. To lose that, some worry, is to lose the music of existence itself. But perhaps, rather, it is to see the music expanded, to hear the harmonies behind the melody, to sense the whole, even as we still dance within the song. The question of whether time is real is not merely an abstract puzzle for armchair philosophers or learned physicists. It reaches into the heart of what it means to exist. For if time's arrow is no more than a trick of our minds, then our deepest certainties must give way to a more radical humility, a willingness to live unsure, to see the world not as a path, but as a garden, blooming everywhere at once. Yet, the illusion of time also holds treasures for those still anchored to ordinary life. For one, it inspires gratitude. If only the present is real, then each moment is precious beyond measure. For another, it invites forgiveness, a refusal to be dominated by the shadows of the past or anxieties for the future. In a timeless universe, love, kindness, and curiosity are not just choices, but ways to inhabit the shimmering web of possibility. In the end, whether time is an illusion or a bedrock of reality remains an open question, one that may never be fully answered. What matters, perhaps, is not the answer, but the awe, the humility, and the sense of wonder such questions arouse. So, as you return to your day, your meetings, chores, dreams, and desires, ask yourself, what if time is an illusion? What would you do differently with this knowledge? Would you fret about tomorrow or dwell in yesterday, or would you, at last, embrace what has always been waiting, the miraculous immeasurability of the present moment, rippling endlessly in the deep ocean of now?